As lightning splits the Arkansas sky, a giant cowboy stumbles through the storm toward his wagon, only to freeze when he spots a trembling woman expertly repairing his broken wheel with impossible precision. Townsfolk whisper she's just another wandering ghost, a shadow destined to disappear like all the other forgotten souls who drift through their frontier settlement. They assume she'll vanish or meet misfortune within days. But this solitary cowboy sees something different. Her hands move with the skill of a master craftsman. Her eyes hold secrets that could change everything. She's been hiding in his wagon for weeks, fleeing men who claim government authority to steal land and destroy lives. What neither realizes is that their unlikely meeting will expose a conspiracy reaching the highest levels of power, where the wrong choice could mean not just their deaths, but the destruction of every honest family in the territory. Will this mysterious woman's hidden past be their salvation, or the very thing that dooms them both? Before we continue, comment where you are tuning in from. Perhaps we will publish a story there. The rain hammered against the shutters of Mackenzie's cabin like bullets against wood. Tom Mackenzie pulled his hat low and stepped into the storm. His wagon sat 50 yards away, and he needed to secure the canvas before it tore apart. Lightning split the sky. In that brief flash, he saw her. A woman crouched beside his wagon wheel, her hands working steadily despite the downpour. She held something metal, turning it with practiced precision. Tom's hand moved to his rifle, then stopped. She wasn't stealing. She was fixing. Thunder rolled across the Arkansas territory as Tom approached. The woman looked up, water streaming down her dark face. Her eyes held no fear, only calculation. "Axle pin was shearing," she said, raising her voice above the storm. "Another mile and your wheel would have come clean off." Tom stared at the repair. The bent metal had been straightened and reinforced with wire. Professional work. Better than professional. "Been here long?" "Few weeks." She stood wiping her hands on a scrap of cloth. "Hope you don't mind. Kept your things dry." Inside the wagon, everything sat exactly where he'd left it, but cleaner. His tools hung in perfect order. The canvas had been patched in 3 places with neat, invisible stitches. "What's your name?" "Mercy Washington." Tom had heard the whispers in town. The shadow woman who appeared at dawn and vanished by noon. Folks said she stole scraps and slept in barns. Some claimed she brought bad luck. Others insisted she was touched in the head. "Town thinks you're trouble." Mercy's jaw tightened. Town thinks a lot of things. The storm intensified. Tom made a decision that would change everything. "Get inside." They huddled in the wagon as rain pounded the canvas. Mercy sat perfectly still, hands folded. Tom studied her in the lamplight. Her dress was patched but clean, her movements precise, economical. "Why my wagon?" "It was broken. I fixed it." "That's not an answer." Mercy reached into her pocket and pulled out a folded paper. The ink had smeared, but Tom could read enough. Official seal, government letterhead, legal language about land seizure and federal authority. "Men came to my family's place 3 weeks back," Mercy said. "Wore badges, had papers like this, said we were squatting on federal land." Tom examined the document. It looked legitimate, but something felt wrong. "What happened?" "They burned us out. Shot my brother when he tried to stop them." Mercy's voice stayed level, but her hands trembled. "I ran." "Where's the rest of your family?" "Gone." Tom had seen enough government papers during his cavalry days to spot irregularities. The signatures looked wrong, the dates didn't match, but the seal appeared genuine. "These men still around?" "They're working the whole county, hitting every colored family with land." A chill ran through Tom that had nothing to do with the storm. He'd heard similar stories from other territories, official-looking men with badges and papers, claiming legal authority to seize property. "You got anywhere else to go?" Mercy shook her head. Tom stood and moved to his tool chest. Inside, beneath his leather work gloves, lay his discharge papers from the Union Army. Beside them, a faded daguerreotype of himself in uniform. "I know something about men who hide behind false authority." He turned back to find Mercy examining his wagon's interior with curious eyes. She pointed to a wooden bracket he'd installed to hold his rifle. "Joints cut wrong," she said. "Weights distributed poorly. Wood'll split under stress." Tom looked at his handiwork. He'd been proud of that bracket. "You know carpentry?" "I know engineering." The words hung in the air like a challenge. Tom had never met a colored woman who claimed such knowledge. He'd never met any woman who spoke with such technical precision. "Where'd you learn engineering?" Mercy hesitated. Tom saw the war in her eyes, the choice between truth and safety. "That's a long story." Outside, the storm began to ease. Mercy moved toward the wagon's opening. "I should go." "Where?" "Doesn't matter." Tom blocked her path. Not threatening, just present. "Those men find you. What happens?" Mercy met his eyes. "Nothing good." "Then stay." "Why?" Tom looked at the perfectly organized tools, the invisible patches, the expert repair work. This woman possessed skills he couldn't explain, and knowledge that made no sense. But she'd spent weeks protecting his property instead of stealing it. "Because you fixed my wagon." Mercy studied his face, searching for deception or hidden motives. Tom had lived alone for 5 years, trusting no one, needing no one. Yet something about this mysterious woman made him want to protect her. The rain stopped. In the sudden silence, they heard horses approaching. 3 riders emerged from the trees, badges glinting on their chests. The leader wore an expensive hat and carried official-looking papers. His eyes swept the area with predatory focus. Mercy pressed herself against the wagon's back wall. "They found me," she whispered. Tom checked his rifle and stepped outside. The riders approached with casual confidence, men accustomed to being obeyed without question. The leader smiled and tipped his hat. "Evening, citizen. We're looking for a fugitive. Dangerous woman. Goes by the name Mercy Washington." Tom's mind raced. These men looked official. But so had the ones who'd destroyed Mercy's family. Their papers might be real or expertly forged. Their badges could be genuine or clever fakes. One choice would keep him safe and alone. The other would make him a target of forces he didn't fully understand. Tom stepped forward, rifle loose in his hands. The 3 riders studied him with practiced eyes, badge men who expected compliance. "Haven't seen anyone matching that description," Tom said. The leader's smile tightened. "Mind if we search your property? Official business?" "Got a warrant?" "Don't need one. Federal authority supersedes local law." Tom had heard that line before, usually from men who bent rules to suit their purposes. What's this woman done? Theft, vagrancy, resisting lawful eviction. The leader shuffled his papers importantly. Dangerous elements. These squatters. Spread disease, corrupt honest communities. Inside the wagon, Mercy remained perfectly still. Tom could feel her presence like a held breath. "I'll keep an eye out," Tom said. The riders exchanged glances. The leader leaned forward in his saddle. "Appreciate your cooperation, citizen, but we still need to search." Tom raised his rifle slightly, not aiming, just adjusting his grip. "Properties posted, no trespassing." The standoff stretched taut. 3 against 1, but Tom held the high ground and superior cover. The riders calculated odds and potential complications. "We'll be back," the leader said finally, "with reinforcements." They wheeled their horses and disappeared into the trees. Tom waited until the hoofbeats faded before returning to the wagon. Mercy sat exactly where he'd left her, but sweat beaded her forehead despite the cool air. "They'll return with more men," she said. "Probably. You should have let them take me." Tom studied her face. Fear lived there, but something else too. Intelligence. Determination. The kind of strength that bent without breaking. "Why didn't you run when you heard them coming?" "Nowhere to run." "That's not it." Mercy looked away. Tom pressed harder. "You could have slipped out the back. Been gone before they saw you. Instead, you stayed put. Maybe I'm tired of running. Or maybe you wanted to see how I'd handle them." Their eyes met. Tom saw the truth there, sharp and calculating. You were testing me. Men reveal themselves under pressure, Mercy said. You revealed yourself. What did you see? Someone who's been betrayed by authority before. Tom set his rifle aside. This woman saw too much, understood too quickly. It should have worried him. Instead, he felt oddly relieved. Those papers they showed you, he said. Let me see them again. Mercy handed over the documents. Tom spread them on his small table and lit a second lamp. The seals looked genuine, but the typography felt wrong. Letters slightly too thick, spacing inconsistent. These are forgeries, he said. How can you tell? Spent 2 years processing discharge papers for my unit. Saw thousands of federal documents. These don't match. Mercy leaned over his shoulder. Her presence was distracting in a way Tom couldn't define. If they're fake, who made them? Someone with access to real seals and official paper stock, high-level access. Government inside job? Or someone stealing supplies and selling them? Mercy traced the document's border with her finger. Her touch was precise, analytical. Paper quality is correct, she said. Ink formulation matches federal standards. Seal impression depth is perfect. Tom stared at her. How do you know federal ink formulations? Mercy straightened. The moment of truth had arrived. Because I helped design the machinery that mixes them. The words hit Tom like a physical blow. What? I'm a mechanical engineer, trained at the Hartford Institute of Industrial Sciences. Graduated second in my class. Tom's mind reeled. That's impossible. Why? Because I'm a woman? Because I'm colored? Because you're living in my wagon. Mercy's laugh held no humor. Engineers need sponsors. Colored engineers need white sponsors. Female colored engineers need miracles. She moved to his tool chest and pulled out a broken pocket watch. Her hands worked with surgical precision, dismantling the mechanism in seconds. Mainsprings coiled wrong, she said, adjusting microscopic components. Escapement wheel needs realignment. Balance staff's bent. She reassembled the watch in under a minute. It began ticking immediately, keeping perfect time. Tom stared at the restored timepiece. He'd considered it permanently broken. Where did you learn this? Mrs. Catherine Hartwell, my former master's wife. She was educated at the Boston Academy for Young Ladies. Her father was an inventor. Mercy's voice took on a different quality, softer, but stronger. When I was 12, she caught me reading her mathematics books. Instead of punishing me, she started teaching me. Secretly at first, then openly after her husband died. What happened then? She sent me north, arranged my enrollment using forged papers that made me appear to be her ward. I spent 6 years in Hartford, learning everything I could. Tom struggled to process this information. Why come back south? My family needed help. I thought I could use my skills to improve their farm, maybe start a business, make things better. Instead, you found those men. Instead, I found a conspiracy bigger than simple land theft. Mercy returned to the forged documents. Her engineer's mind engaged fully. These aren't random forgeries. They're part of a systematic operation. Someone's using fake federal authority to steal specific properties. What kind of properties? Properties along surveyed railroad routes, properties with mineral rights, properties with water access. Her eyes blazed with understanding. This isn't about removing squatters. It's about stealing valuable land using government authority as cover. Tom felt the pieces clicking together. How many families have they hit? At least 30 that I know of, probably more. All colored families? Easier targets, less likely to have legal representation or political connections. Tom stood and paced the wagon's narrow confines. Everything made sense now. The professional forgeries, the federal authority claims, the systematic targeting. We need proof, he said. I've been gathering evidence for weeks, but I need help to expose them. Tom met her eyes. What kind of help? The kind that might get you killed. Dawn brought unexpected visitors. Tom heard the horse before he saw the rider stumbling toward his cabin. A woman, barely conscious, clutching her saddle horn with bloodied fingers. She collapsed before reaching the porch. Tom caught her as she fell, noting the fever burning through her clothes. Her dress bore scorch marks. Her hands showed rope burns. "Please," she whispered, "they're coming." Mercy appeared instantly, helping Tom carry the stranger inside. Her engineering mind switched to medical mode, checking pulse and breathing with clinical efficiency. Dehydration, exhaustion, possible infection. Mercy's diagnosis was swift and certain. "She needs water and rest." The woman's eyes fluttered open. "Sarah Coleman, I escaped from Millerville." Tom knew Millerville. 20 miles north, prosperous farming community. Or it had been. "What happened there?" "They burned everything. Said we were illegally occupying federal land." Sarah's voice cracked. "Had official papers, badges, army uniforms." Mercy and Tom exchanged glances. The pattern was expanding. "How many families?" 12. Maybe 15. They rounded up the men first, claimed they were processing legal challenges. Sarah struggled to sit up. "There were no legal challenges, just wagons to haul people away." "Where did they take them?" "Don't know. I hid in the root cellar when they torched our house." Mercy brought water and clean cloth. Her hands worked gently, cleaning Sarah's wounds while her mind processed information. "These men," Mercy said, "did they mention other locations?" "Pine Ridge, Oakwood Settlement, Cedar Falls." Sarah's eyes widened with remembering. They had maps, detailed maps showing property lines and ownership records. Tom felt ice in his stomach. Those settlements housed over 200 families. Government maps? Surveyor quality, professional cartography. Sarah accepted another sip of water. But something was wrong with them. Mercy leaned forward. "Wrong how?" "Property boundaries didn't match our deeds. Rivers shown in different locations. It was like they were using maps of a different place entirely." The pieces clicked in Mercy's engineer mind. False maps to justify false claims. Create documentation showing valuable land as unused federal territory, then seize it legally. "Sarah, did you bring anything with you?" Sarah reached into her dress pocket and pulled out crumpled papers. "Grabbed these when I ran. Thought they might be important." Mercy unfolded the documents carefully. Her eyes widened as she read. "These aren't seizure orders, they're railroad surveyor reports." Tom looked over her shoulder. The papers showed detailed geological surveys, water table analysis, and mineral rights assessments. Professional work worth thousands of dollars. "Someone's been planning this for months," Mercy said. "Maybe years." "Planning what exactly?" "Land acquisition along proposed railroad routes. They're using fake federal authority to steal property, then selling it to railroad companies at massive profit." Sarah struggled to her feet. "My husband worked for the Territorial Land Office. He said strange men had been asking questions about property records and surveyor maps." "What kind of questions? Which families held clear titles? Which properties had water access? Which settlements lacked political connections?" Tom paced the small cabin. The conspiracy was larger and more organized than he'd imagined. "We need to warn people." "Warn them about what?" Mercy's tone was grim. "Official-looking men with official-looking papers claiming federal authority, most folks will cooperate rather than fight the government. Then we expose the truth. How? Who's going to believe a vagrant colored woman and a hermit cowboy over men with badges and documents?" Sarah raised her hand weakly. "I might know someone who can help." Both turned to her expectantly. "Judge Patricia Hawthorne. She's investigating irregular land seizures across 3 territories. My husband mentioned her last month." "Where is she?" "Should be in Little Rock, reviewing territorial court cases." Tom calculated distances. 4 days hard riding, if she's still there. "If she's legitimate," Mercy added. "If she's not part of the conspiracy herself." "She's legitimate." Sarah's voice carried conviction. "My husband said she was asking uncomfortable questions about federal land policy, making powerful people nervous." Mercy moved to Tom's tool chest and began assembling components. Metal pieces, wire, springs from the broken pocket watch. What are you making? Communication device. If we're going to expose this conspiracy, we need to coordinate with other settlements. Warn them what's coming. Her hands moved with impossible speed and precision. Components that seemed random began forming a complex mechanism. Telegraph? Mechanical message relay system. Doesn't need wires or electrical power. Mercy's engineering genius was fully engaged. I can build signal stations using available materials. Create a network spanning 50 miles. Tom watched in fascination as she constructed something that shouldn't exist. The device looked like a combination music box and surveying instrument. How does it work? Encoded mechanical signals transmitted through ground vibration. Operators use standardized patterns to send messages between stations. You invented this? Adapted existing principles. Earthquake detection devices work similarly. Within 2 hours, she'd built 3 functioning units. Each fit in a saddlebag and could be operated by anyone with basic instructions. We need volunteers, Tom said. People willing to risk their lives carrying messages. We need more than that. Mercy's expression was grave. We need proof these seizures are illegal. Evidence that will hold up in federal court. Sarah struggled to her feet. Despite her injuries, determination burned in her eyes. I know where they keep their records. Temporary headquarters in an old mill outside Crenshaw. That's 20 miles through hostile territory. It's also our only chance to get documentation proving the conspiracy. Tom checked his rifle and ammunition. 3 people against an organized criminal operation backed by fake federal authority. When do we leave? Tonight, Mercy said. Under cover of darkness. And if we get caught? Mercy's smile was sharp as winter steel. Then we better make sure we don't get caught. The mill sat silent in moonlight, its water wheel frozen with disuse. Tom counted 6 horses tethered outside, too many guards for a simple record storage facility. Something's wrong, he whispered. Mercy crouched beside him in the tall grass. Her mechanical mind analyzed the scene like a blueprint. Guard rotation every 30 minutes, 2 men patrolling the perimeter, 4 inside processing documents. How can you tell? Lamplight patterns, shadows moving past windows, basic security assessment. Sarah pointed to a side entrance. Records room is upstairs, back corner window. They waited for the patrol to pass, then moved toward the building. Tom's cavalry training kicked in. Silent footsteps, careful breathing, constant awareness of escape routes. Mercy produced a set of improvised lockpicks from her pocket. The door opened without sound. Inside, papers covered every surface. Maps, deeds, surveyor reports, legal documents. A criminal enterprise operating at massive scale. Look at this, Sarah whispered, holding up a leather-bound ledger. Mercy examined the entries. Names, properties, seizure dates, resale values. Mathematical precision applied to systematic theft. Over 300 families targeted across 5 territories, Mercy read. Estimated value, $2 million. Tom found a crate filled with blank federal documents. Official seals, letterhead, signature stamps. Everything needed to forge government authorization. This isn't random crime. It's organized business. Mercy discovered something that made her freeze. A personnel roster with detailed backgrounds on every member of the operation. Tom, look at this. The list contained names, ranks, previous assignments. Tom recognized several from his Army days. These are former government employees, land office clerks, territorial officials, discharged officers. People with inside knowledge and access to legitimate materials, Mercy said. Sarah found the worst evidence yet. A correspondence file labeled Washington Contacts. They have partners in the federal government, senators, department heads, railroad executives. The scope of corruption was staggering. Not just local criminals, but a conspiracy reaching the highest levels of power. Footsteps on the stairs interrupted their investigation. Tom grabbed essential documents while Mercy stuffed the personnel roster into her dress. Sarah clutched the correspondence file. Window, Tom mouthed silently. They climbed onto the roof as voices filled the records room below, angry voices discovering the break-in. Spread out. Search everywhere. Tom led them across connected rooftops toward the forest. Behind them, lanterns flickered as the search expanded. They reached the trees as horses thundered from the mill. The chase was beginning. They'll track us, Sarah said. Not if we're smart about it. Tom knew every creek and game trail for 20 miles. This way. They spent 2 hours evading pursuit, finally taking shelter in an abandoned root cellar. Tom lit a small candle while Mercy examined their stolen evidence. We have enough to expose the local operation, she said. But not the Washington connections. What about Judge Hawthorne? If she's legitimate, this evidence could start a federal investigation. Sarah suddenly clutched her stomach and doubled over in pain. The fever had returned worse than before. I can't travel much further. Mercy checked her pulse. Too fast, too weak. Infection was spreading. She needs medical attention soon. Nearest doctor is in Millerville, 20 miles. Millerville's been destroyed, remember? Tom considered their options. All bad. What about Pine Ridge? They might have someone with medical training. If Pine Ridge still exists, Mercy said grimly. They rested until dawn, then continued toward Pine Ridge settlement. Sarah rode double with Tom, barely conscious. Mercy scouted ahead on foot, watching for patrols. Pine Ridge appeared deserted. Burned buildings, scattered belongings, no signs of life. Too late, Tom said. Mercy explored the ruins with systematic thoroughness. Her engineer's mind cataloged the destruction. This wasn't random burning. Look at the pattern. She pointed to specific buildings that remained intact while others were completely destroyed. They saved structures with strategic value. The grain silo, the blacksmith shop, the mill. Why? Because they plan to use this location. This isn't about driving people away permanently. It's about clearing them temporarily while ownership transfers. Tom understood. Steal the land legally, then invite the original owners back as tenants or workers. Brilliant criminal business model, Mercy said. Maximum profit, minimum suspicion. They found survivors hiding in the forest. 12 families living in makeshift shelters, afraid to return home. An elderly man named Daniel approached cautiously. You folks lost too? We're trying to stop this, Tom said. But we need help. What kind of help? Mercy showed him the stolen documents. Daniel's eyes widened as he read. This proves they're criminals? It proves the local operation is criminal. But there are federal connections we haven't exposed yet. Daniel called over other survivors. Word spread quickly through their hidden camp. What do you need from us? Witnesses, Mercy said. People willing to testify about what happened here. Testify to who? They got official papers, badges, federal authority. To a real federal judge who's investigating illegal land seizures. The group exchanged uncertain glances. Trust was a luxury they couldn't afford. How do we know you're not working for them? Fair question. Tom had no easy answer. Sarah spoke up weakly. Because they're risking their lives to help us. That don't prove nothing. Mercy stepped forward. Her voice carried conviction that cut through doubt. Because I'm one of you. They burned my family's farm. Killed my brother. I've been hiding and running for weeks. She showed them her own forged seizure documents. I'm also a trained engineer who can prove these papers are fake. Daniel examined the documents with new interest. You really think this Judge Hawthorne can stop them? If she's real, and if we can reach her with evidence? And if she's not real, Mercy met his eyes, then we're all in serious trouble. Daniel agreed to help, but the other survivors remained skeptical. Trust required proof they couldn't afford to give. We need to reach Judge Hawthorne, Mercy said. Someone has to ride to Little Rock. I'll go, Tom volunteered. Too dangerous alone. They're watching all the main roads. Sarah struggled to sit up. I know back trails, logging roads that avoid the main routes. Her fever had broken, but she remained weak. Travel would be difficult. "You need rest," Mercy said. "I need justice more than rest." Daniel produced a detailed hand-drawn map. "My son worked these logging roads for 5 years, every trail, every creek crossing." Mercy studied the routes with her engineer's precision. 40 miles through rough terrain, 3 days if we avoid detection. 2 days if we push hard, Tom corrected. They prepared to leave at sunset. Tom checked weapons and supplies while Mercy assembled another message relay device. Sarah studied the map until she could navigate blindfolded. "What about the survivors here?" Tom asked. "We stay hidden until you return," Daniel said. "If you return." Mercy handed Daniel one of her communication devices. "If we don't make contact within a week, assume we failed. Then what? Then you're on your own." They rode out as darkness fell. Sarah led them along narrow trails that wound through dense forest. Her knowledge proved invaluable, finding paths that barely qualified as roads. By midnight, they'd covered 15 miles without seeing another soul. The logging roads were abandoned, overgrown, forgotten by everyone except locals who'd worked them. "We can rest here," Sarah said, indicating a clearing beside a stream. They made cold camp, no fire, minimal conversation. Tom took first watch while the women slept. During Mercy's watch shift, she discovered they weren't alone. Horse tracks in the soft earth near the stream. Recent tracks. She woke Tom silently, pointing to the signs. 3 horses, maybe 4, traveling the same direction. "Patrol," he whispered. "Or other refugees using the same routes." They woke Sarah and resumed travel immediately. Better to risk exhaustion than capture. Dawn found them climbing through rocky hills that offered good visibility and multiple escape routes. Sarah's condition was deteriorating again, but she refused to slow down. "Judge Hawthorne usually stays at the federal building," she said. "3rd floor, territorial court section." "If she's still there," Tom said. "If she exists at all," Mercy added. They reached the outskirts of Little Rock by midday. The city bustled with normal activity. People who had no idea about the systematic land theft happening in rural areas. "How do we approach this?" Tom asked. "Carefully," Mercy said. "If Judge Hawthorne is legitimate, she'll want to see evidence. If she's compromised, we'll be walking into a trap." Sarah suggested reconnaissance first. "I'll go to the federal building. Ask casual questions. You two stay hidden." "Too dangerous. You're barely standing." "I look like a legitimate citizen with business in federal court. You look like fugitives." She had a point. Tom's rough appearance and Mercy's damaged dress would attract unwanted attention. Sarah entered the federal building while Tom and Mercy waited in a nearby alley. Minutes passed like hours. "Something's wrong," Mercy said. "Give her time." "She's been gone too long." Tom agreed. Sarah should have returned by now with basic information. They moved closer to the building, trying to spot her through the windows. Nothing. "We need to go in," Mercy said. "If it's a trap, we'll be walking right into it." "If it's not a trap, Sarah needs help." Tom checked his weapons and straightened his shirt. "Stay close, be ready to run." The federal building's lobby was busy with clerks and citizens conducting official business. No one paid attention to 2 more visitors. They found the territorial court section on the 3rd floor. Sarah sat in a waiting area, talking quietly with a well-dressed woman who radiated authority. Judge Patricia Hawthorne was nothing like they'd expected. Small, sharp-eyed, with graying hair and clothes that suggested both professionalism and practicality. She looked up as they approached. "You must be Tom and Mercy. Sarah's been telling me remarkable things." Her voice carried the weight of legal training and genuine concern. "You're really investigating land seizures?" Tom asked. "Among other irregularities in territorial administration?" Judge Hawthorne studied them carefully. "Sarah showed me some interesting documents." Mercy pulled out the stolen evidence. Judge Hawthorne examined each paper with the thoroughness of someone who understood both legal procedures and criminal deception. "These are definitely forgeries," she confirmed. "High-quality forgeries created by someone with access to legitimate materials." "What can you do about it?" Issue federal warrants for the arrest of everyone named in these documents. Launch a full investigation into the conspiracy. Restore stolen property to rightful owners. Just like that? Judge Hawthorne's smile was sharp. Nothing in federal law is just like that. But yes, this evidence provides sufficient grounds for immediate action. She stood and moved to her desk, pulling out official forms. I'll need sworn statements from all of you. Detailed testimony about what you witnessed and experienced. What about the Washington connections? Mercy asked. Those will require a separate investigation, but exposing the local operation should disrupt the entire conspiracy. When do you move against them? Today. I have 12 federal marshals waiting for my orders. Tom felt relief flooding through him. After weeks of running and hiding, legitimate authority was finally taking action. There's one more thing, Judge Hawthorne said. I've been looking for someone with your qualifications, Miss Washington. Mercy looked up sharply. My qualifications? The territorial government needs a chief land surveyor. Someone with engineering training who can establish accurate property boundaries and prevent future disputes. You're offering me a job? I'm offering you a chance to use your skills in service of justice. Mercy looked at Tom, then back at Judge Hawthorne. What about the people still hiding in the forests? The families who lost everything? They'll be compensated and their property restored. That's a promise. For the first time in weeks, Mercy allowed herself to hope. Judge Hawthorne moved with decisive efficiency. Within hours, federal marshals were riding toward every location mentioned in the stolen documents. The conspiracy that had seemed untouchable suddenly faced the full weight of legitimate federal authority. Tom and Mercy returned to Pine Ridge with official protection. Daniel and the other survivors emerged from hiding, hardly believing their ordeal was ending. It's really over? Daniel asked, staring at the federal warrant in his hands. The local operation is finished, Tom confirmed. The Washington investigation will take longer. Mercy supervised the marshal's arrests with quiet satisfaction. Marcus Webb and his men were taken without resistance, their fake authority crumbling when confronted by real federal power. You actually did it, Sarah said, watching the prisoners loaded into wagons. We all did it, Mercy replied. Everyone who refused to give up, who kept fighting when it seemed hopeless. The restoration process began immediately. Judge Hawthorne established a temporary court in Pine Ridge to process property claims and compensation requests. Mercy's engineering expertise proved invaluable in determining accurate property boundaries. This surveying equipment is completely wrong, she told Judge Hawthorne, examining the tools used by the criminals. Deliberately miscalibrated to show false measurements. Can you fix it? I can build better equipment from scratch. Within a week, Mercy had constructed precision surveying instruments that far exceeded territorial standards. Her mechanical genius turned the complex task of property restoration into systematic efficiency. Tom found himself appointed as Mercy's security coordinator, protecting the surveying teams and ensuring their safety while they worked. His knowledge of local terrain and people made him invaluable. Never thought I'd be working for the government again, he told Mercy as they established survey markers. You're not working for the government. You're working for justice. Is there a difference? There is when honest people run the government. The families began returning to their restored properties. Children who had hidden in forests could play in sunlight again. Men who had lost everything started rebuilding with compensation funds and legal protection. Daniel reopened his general store in Pine Ridge. Sarah recovered her health and accepted a position as court clerk, helping other families navigate the legal restoration process. What about your family's property? Tom asked Mercy one evening as they finished surveying her former homestead. The land is officially restored, but the memories are complicated. She stood where her family's cabin had been, looking at the charred foundation stones. My brother died defending this place. My parents fled in terror. The land is mine again, but everything that made it home is gone. Tom understood. Some losses couldn't be restored with legal documents. What will you do with it? Build something new. Something that honors the past but looks towards the future. 3 months after Judge Hawthorne's intervention, Mercy officially accepted the position as Territorial Chief Land Surveyor. Her office occupied the second floor of the rebuilt Pine Ridge Courthouse. Tom became her full partner in the surveying business, handling logistics and security while she focused on technical work. Their professional partnership had evolved into something deeper, built on shared hardship and mutual respect. Land Survey and Security Services, Tom read from their new sign. Think it'll work? We've got more requests than we can handle, Mercy replied, looking at the stack of surveying contracts on her desk. The territorial governor had validated all their property restorations and established new regulations preventing future fraud. Mercy's surveying standards became the official territorial requirement. Miss Washington, Judge Hawthorne said, visiting their office on a crisp autumn morning, the Washington investigation has concluded. What did they find? 17 federal officials indicted for conspiracy and fraud, 2 senators facing ethics violations, 3 railroad companies under investigation for purchasing stolen property. Justice served? Justice in progress. These things take time, but the corruption is being exposed systematically. Judge Hawthorne placed an official document on Mercy's desk. Congressional Commendation for Exceptional Service to Federal Law Enforcement, signed by the Secretary of the Interior. Mercy stared at the formal recognition. 6 months ago, she'd been hiding in a wagon, considered a vagrant by most people who saw her. There's also a request from the Interior Department. They want you to establish surveying standards for 3 additional territories. They want me to travel? They want you to transform how the federal government handles property rights in the Western Territories. Tom and Mercy exchanged glances. The opportunity was enormous, but it would require leaving the community they'd helped rebuild. What do you think? She asked Tom. I think you should do whatever makes you happy. What would make me happy is continuing to work with my partner. Tom smiled. Then I guess we're expanding our business. 1 year later, Tom and Mercy stood on a hill overlooking the valley they'd helped restore. Pine Ridge bustled with activity. Its population doubled by families seeking the security of legitimate property rights. Sarah had married Daniel and opened a school that welcomed all children regardless of background. Judge Hawthorne visited regularly, ensuring the legal protections remained strong. Any regrets? Tom asked. About what? Giving up the quiet life. We could have stayed hidden, avoided all the complications. Mercy considered this seriously. Below them, children played in streets that had once been burned ruins. Families worked land they legally owned. Justice had replaced corruption through their efforts. Some things are worth fighting for, she said finally. Land, truth, dignity. Love, Mercy said, taking his hand. The love of justice, the love of community, the love between 2 people who choose each other. Tom squeezed her hand gently. They had built something permanent together, something that would outlast any individual hardship. The sunset painted the valley in golden light, illuminating a future they had earned through courage, partnership, and the unshakable belief that ordinary people could achieve extraordinary justice when they refused to surrender hope.